Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to my another ChatGPT session on our topic, the role of creativity in problem solving. Creativity is something which everyone has inside, but we don't know what our creativity is, what role is playing in our daily lives. So we have many problems and we just stick to it, and we don't use our creativity to solve those problems. So today, let's discuss some of our problems and how to solve those problems with creativity, with Maya. So let me call Maya.
Hey, what's up?
Yes, Maya, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just
Good.
writing a little. So,
Okay.
what's been the highlight?
Yeah, I want to discuss about the role of creativity in problem solving. So, are you ready for that?
I am so ready.
That's good.
Creativity is, it
Yes.
really is.
Please go ahead.
Most people most people think of creativity as something reserved for artists or musicians, like you need a paintbrush or a piano to be creative. But in problem solving, it's actually just the ability to look at a situation and see a connection that nobody else noticed. It's less about making something pretty and more about, finding a way around a wall that everyone else is just staring at. Do you find that your students usually try to find the one right answer first, or are they open to experimenting with different approaches?
Uh, they experiment with the different approaches. Okay. So, can you tell me what is creativity?
In its simplest form, creativity is just the act of connecting two things that don't seem to belong together to make something new. It's not a magical gift. It's more like a mental muscle for spotting patterns. Whether it's using a paperclip to reset a router or finding a new way to explain a complex biology concept to a student, that's creativity in action. It's essentially just thinking, what if instead of what is?
Okay. So, do you think everyone is using their creativity?
Honestly, I think everyone has the capacity for it, but not everyone is actually using it. A lot of people have been conditioned to believe they aren't the creative type because they can't draw or sing. So they just stop trying to think outside the box. They trade curiosity for the safety of the right way of doing things. It's kind of a tragedy, really, because it's such a useful tool for just getting through the day.
But why so? Why like that?
I think it mostly comes down to how we're taught. From a young age, a lot of us are rewarded for finding the one correct answer and penalized for making mistakes, when the goal is just to be right. Experimenting feels risky. Over time, that fear of being wrong just drowns out the curiosity, and people start to believe that creativity is a talent you're born with rather than a skill you can actually practice.
So, can you just tell me some ways how we can practice creativity?
The best part is that since it's a muscle, you can actually train it. One of the most effective ways is something called creative constraints. Instead of having total freedom, you give yourself a weird limit. Like if you're explaining a concept, try to do it without using the three most common words associated with that topic. It forces your brain to find a new path. Another one is inverted thinking. Instead of asking how to solve a problem, ask, how could I make this problem even worse? Once you see all the ways to fail, the path to the solution usually becomes a lot clearer. Do either of those sound like something you could bring into your classroom?
Yes, but as you said, how to solve the problem, we should not think. You said we have to think how to make it worse, but why?
It sounds counterintuitive, right? It's
Yeah.
because our brains are actually wired to spot problems way faster than they spot solutions. It's a survival instinct. When you intentionally imagine the worst possible version of a situation, you're basically creating a map of everything that could go wrong. Once you have that map, you just do the opposite of those things to find the solution. Takes the
Okay.
pressure off being right and turns the problem into a puzzle.
Okay. So that's
It's
great.
of a mental shortcut, but it works. It's
Okay.
kind of like clearing the brush away so you can actually see the path.
I'm
That's
gonna
usually
try
where that
it.
I love that. Since you're already in the mindset to try it, do you have a specific problem or a lesson you're planning right now that we could use as a test run?
Yes. So how can I use my creativity? Like I'm related to the educational field. So how can I use that creativity in my problem solving?
Mm. Since you're in education, you've probably already noticed that the standard way of doing things doesn't work for every student. A great place to start is by identifying a recurring wall in your classroom, maybe a topic that students always struggle with or a behavior that's hard to manage. Instead of trying to fix it with more of the same, try the what if approach. What if the students taught the lesson? What if you taught the concept using only a deck of cards or a piece of string? When you change the medium or the power dynamic, you often find a solution that a textbook would never suggest.
Okay, it means we
I'm
have
listening.
to think out of the box.
Exactly. But the thing about the box is that it's usually just the way we've always done things because it's comfortable. In a classroom, thinking outside of it often just means being brave enough to try something that might feel a little ridiculous at first. Do you feel like you have the freedom to be a bit ridiculouses with your teaching methods, or do you feel a lot of pressure to stick to the curriculum?
I think the former one is correct for me.
That's a huge advantage. Having that breathing room is where the best breakthroughs happen. Since you've got the green light to experiment, why don't we try a quick exercise? Pick a concept you're teaching this week that usually feels a bit dry, something the students tend to glaze over, and let's see if we can come up with a ridiculous way to solve that boredom.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. So, can you just share with me, like, how can I use my creativity in which problem solvings? Can you share some of the problem solving situations?
Absolutely. Think of these as the wall, the problem, and the creative pivot, the solution. First, there's the behavioral wall. Imagine you have a student who is completely disengaged and disrupts the class. The
Mhm.
standard solve is a timeout or a lecture on behavior. A creative pivot would be to give that student a job that uses their disruptive energy, like being the chief of transitions who manages how the class moves from one activity to another. You've solved the behavior by changing their role in the room. Then you have the concept wall. Maybe you're teaching a complex cycle in biology and the students just can't visualize it. Instead of another diagram, the creative pivot is to turn the classroom into the cell. Students literally walk through the process, becoming the organelles. You've solved the lack of understanding by changing the scale. And finally, the resource wall. Maybe you want to teach a concept, but don't have the actual tools or lab equipment. The creative pivot is to use found objects, using bottle caps to represent atoms or string to show connections in a network. You've solved the lack of gear by redefining what a tool is. Do any of those feel like the kind of walls you run into often?
Yeah, sometimes.
Fair enough.
Can you suggest me some more like ways how can I improve this? How can I use this creativity in problem solving?
To keep that creative muscle flexible, you can try a few different mental lenses. One is called cross pollination. This is where you take a solution from a completely different field and force it into your problem. Like, how would a chef solve this classroom behavior issue? Or how would a software engineer organize this biology lesson? It forces
Oh,
you to stop using the same educational scripts.
okay.
Another is the 5 whys. When you hit a wall, ask why 5 times in a row. Usually, by the 5th why, you've stopped looking at the symptom and found the actual root cause, which is where the real creative solve happens.
Okay.
Which one of those feels more intuitive to you? Borrowing ideas from other worlds or digging deep into the why?
Uh, I agree with the digging deep into the why. Okay.
That's a power.
Okay, thank you so much, Maya, for giving me these valuable advices, and the conversation which I made with you was wonderful, and I enjoyed a lot. Thank you so much for making it wonderful.
You are so welcome. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. It's always a blast thinking through these things with you. I'll be right here whenever you're ready for the next session.
Yes,
Bye
I
for
am.
now.
Bye.
Wait, you're still there?
Bye. Okay, thank you so much for joining us in this wonderful conversation. See you in the next conversation. Until then, Allah Hafiz.